Welcome to the final round of the Twisted Metal tournament. We've now seen the stories of all 10 of the game's base characters, so we're going to have to delve into the hidden characters we've unlocked in order to finish things off. We'll be starting with an icon of the Twisted Metal series, and possibly its greatest vehicular absurdity, Axel. It's finally time to give this formidable opponent his moment in the sun. But first I have to warn you that there is a disappointing difference between the default characters and the hidden characters. Hidden characters are only afforded a single ending cutscene. That means we'll have to glean Axel's story through other means, but hopefully the boss's introductory cutscene will mitigate this loss somewhat.
You're in violation of Midtown City Code 4432. Step out of your vehicle and surrender peacefully. Time's up.
Quite the intimidating introduction to Warhawk, the tournament's final foe. Seemingly an unintended consequence of the tournament's illegality, but we're still only going to be claiming our prize over his dead body. And it looks like Axel's prize is revenge against his wife's murderer. It's a simple story, but one that is likely to pay off, as we all know Calypso's love of revenge. Before we have to worry about the possibility of our wish killing us though, gotta deal with Warhawk. Heavily armed helicopter with a shield that makes him invincible, much like Minion. And speaking of Minion, here comes Warhawk's reinforcements. This tanker here is, for all intents and purposes, the same thing as Minion. It's got a tracking flamethrower that'll just burn the hell out of you. Instead of fireballs, he fires our standard fire missiles, and he also has the freeze attack that we have access to. The one thing that keeps him from being unbelievably broken is the fact that he has very, very little health. And after we disable him, we gotta blow him up, and if Warhawk is within range, that will permanently damage his shield. Do that a few times, and then we can fight Warhawk. It's pretty difficult, though. We have to corral the tanker into the right spot. Then we have to do enough damage to disable it. Then we have to survive the helicopter's onslaught. Axel's severely damaged state is particularly well detailed. His wheels have a little wobble that makes it look like they're going to fall off. He really looks broken down. We're at least back in a survivable state now. But that doesn't mean Warhawk's going to be compliant with our needs. Much like the tanker, he likes to avoid doing what we need him to do. Eventually, though, he's going to have to perch in the helipad area, right where we left the tanker. That's 2 out of 3 hits down. As soon as the tanker dies, the next one spawns in immediately from the adjacent roof. Keeps things rolling along nicely, but it also keeps us in a very dangerous position. So we gotta get that tanker disabled as fast as we can. Which I did, but slightly outside of the range of the helipad. Time to try again. Not with that tanker though, he killed himself. Drove right off the building. So yet another has taken its place. I would normally spend a lot of time in this portion of the fight frozen solid. Those tankers are usually very generous with that special attack. Not so much this time, I've been very lucky. Getting frozen here is much more dangerous than it is in any of the previous levels, as Warhawk can dish out way more damage than any average enemy. With yet another tanker, incapacitated in just the right spot. Looks like I might have gotten through the fight without getting frozen at all. Yep, that really turns the tides in my favor, because now tankers will stop spawning entirely. It's just us and Warhawk. The satellite missile is the perfect tool for dealing with Warhawk, as it can be fired directly into him if you get underneath him. And Axel's special can also do a tiny sliver of damage using the same very risky maneuver. It really draws to light how weak of a choice Axel is as a vehicle. It's got straight middle-of-the-line stats, and a special that has very limited range and relatively poor damage. It makes for quite a challenging campaign, and an especially difficult Warhawk boss fight, but it's still slightly better than some of the vehicles that can't hit Warhawk at all with their special. Here's Axel's alternate special, in which he turtles inside the wheels of his vehicle, granting him increased traction and maneuverability for a couple of seconds, with no offensive capability whatsoever. It's so good I had to kill myself immediately after using it. That did, along the way, grant us the final black cube of the entire game, which gives us access to the Skyscrapers multiplayer level. Warhawk's none too pleased with our achieving that small victory, so he's tried to sweep us off the edge of the building with the meat tenderizer on the front of his ship. Which is one of his more ridiculous attacks, but it's an instant kill if he pulls it off, so it's something to be avoided. Warhawk in general is pretty ridiculous. You kinda have to wonder how the police got a flying death machine with an invincibility shield. But then you consider the fact that they are going up against the Twisted Metal tournament. Sort of like how Batman villains have to up their game to superpowered levels just to keep up. We've got the satellite missile we need to finish off the guy, but I've kind of undersold how difficult it is to land it. First we're going to have to get him to perch, which he does not want to do. Right now he'd rather destroy our safety bunkers. Then, when he ever does decide to do that, we've actually got to land the thing. There he is, I think he's stopped. With how low our health is, we've probably only got one chance to get in there. And take him down once and for all. This will allow us to watch Axel's ending, even with a little Warhawk death preamble that precedes every ending in this game.
Won the contest. I went to Calypso and demanded my prize. I wanted to know who killed my wife, and I wanted revenge. It was him, that freak in the ice cream truck. He was always around the neighborhood. Why hadn't I been more careful? I should have said something was wrong. It was my fault. Maybe I was really the one to blame for my wife's death. But then, he spoke to me.
Your wife, she didn't die easy. You should know, she begged for you as I killed her.
The clown is dead, but so is my wife. I will never be free.
An ending so disappointing, even Axel's not happy with it. And maybe its greatest crime is that it simply doesn't make sense. Any other time a character has a beef with another driver in the tournament as part of their storyline, their ending assumes that the other driver had been killed in the tournament because otherwise the tournament wouldn't be over. Axel's got the only exception to that rule. Makes a little bit of sense here because we only saw him fight Warhawk, but rest assured, he killed Sweet Tooth a great many times in order to earn the privilege to kill Sweet Tooth. At least Warhawk was kind enough to provide us with a solid boss fight to end the tournament, and to serve as yet another tribute to the game of the same name. Now, normally the credits would be rolling after a grand finale of this sort, but we are still missing a very important part of this game's story. To find out what it is, we're going to have to return once again to the tournament's other boss, Minion. You may be shocked to hear that the coded loading screens that I previously described as uncrackable are in fact in the simplest cipher you can imagine, with the only complication being the complete lack of punctuation and spaces. Every number we see simply needs to be replaced with the letter corresponding to that spot in the alphabet. So this screen, which I showed you before playing as Minion, translates to say, "Not yet, boys and girls, love fiendly." Because at the halfway point of the game, it seemed a little premature to pull back the curtain and reveal the full enormity of what we're dealing with. Now that we have completed the tournament, it is finally time to learn what Minion knows. The truth of Twisted Metal Black is that it is not the gritty reboot it appears to be. This tournament, in fact, takes place in the dark world of Twisted Metal, which is the grisly hellscape that the sweet tooth of the colorful world sees all the time. The only person aware of this fact is the driver of Minion, who we now know to be Marcus Kane. Marcus shares a surname with Needles Kane, not because they are related, but because they are one and the same. He is Sweet Tooth's alter ego from before he went mad. Knowing the depths of Sweet Tooth's madness does not bring an end to it, but rather a new beginning, so join me next time as we continue our battle through the dark world of Twisted Metal.